All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today, where we're going to talk about the FER process for an ePlan grant. My name is Adam Holdren. I'm the Director of Choice Grants with the Department of Choice for the Tennessee Department of Education. I manage grants for some of our choice teams. Choice teams include non-public schools, charter schools, virtual schools. Those are all the teams that I work with. And as you guys have probably picked up in time, I don't manage all the grants. I just manage some of them that are managed by our office. So like, for example, the public safety grant that has recently come out, that's not managed by my team, but I do work with some folks that are doing that work. So, you know, as you're working with them, they do confer with me about stuff that we've been doing on our team as well. So to get us started, this right here is the priorities that we have with the Tennessee Department of Education. I guess this one right here, the conversation today is probably most aligned with student readiness to make sure that we have the tools and resources to serve the academic needs of all of our students in their career pathways. A quick walk through what we're doing today. I'm going to give you just one quick slide to talk about the charter school team transition, because I know it's caught a few folks off guard. I'm going to go over the ePlan grant overview, something if you've been to my webinars before, you've seen many times. And then lastly, we're going to do walk through the final expenditure report process. So to start off, just a really quick icebreaker, and this is not going to be at all aligned to FERS, and that is intentional. Question is, what did you do, what do you plan to do to take some time for yourself this summer? And what are you excited about jumping into this next school year? Let's just hear some thoughts, get some positive energy there about where we've been this summer and where we're going. Jeanette, I'm jealous. India sounds amazing. Ready? Congratulations on the new home. And I think everyone's a little bit excited to finally get to this point where COVID isn't completely running every decision that we're making. We're finally getting to some normalcy. I mean, it's going to take some time, but I know that's what we're all feeling. Personally, I'm a big beach goer, so I had a friend get married about a month or two ago in Puerto Vallarta, which was amazing. And then every year I do a trip with all of my friends, 25 friends in an Airbnb in Pensacola. You can imagine how crazy that is. And it doesn't have enough rooms to accommodate 25 people, but we make it work. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. As there's a small group today, which is great. Like I said, I'm recording this. If you have questions, just pop them into the chat and I will address them as they come up. But let's get started. First thing I want to name, and this is, unfortunately, I don't have the folks here, but that was the intention, is a lot of folks recently have been sending emails to a bunch of people that are no longer here. We've had some big transition in the charter school team, and that is Shelby Goodfriend, who is not here today. She's actually on annual leave as well. She is our director of charter schools. I've worked with Shelby the last 5 years in several different capacities. She started with the department of the TDOE as on the ESA team. And on May 1st, she jumped into this new role. But I'll tell you right now that I couldn't speak higher of anyone else that I've worked with. Shelby will kick butt in this role, and you guys are excited to have, you should be excited to have her working on your team. I'm still here as the director of choice grants. As I mentioned, I do all choice teams. So I manage the grants, I manage ePlan. I will continue working with the facilities funds. When we launched the charter schools, the CSP Charter Schools Program Grant, I'll be managing that. But again, that's kind of the space that I occupy. And then Trudy Hughes, who was going to be here today, but she got called into another meeting. She has replaced Nathan Parker. Initially, she was doing that role interim, but about 2 weeks ago, she was assigned to that role full time. So she's our new Senior Director of Choice. She oversees all of our choice teams. So again, non-public, virtual, ESA, IEA. She oversees that whole process, but she's Shelby and I's direct supervisor. And I'll tell you right now that she's proven to be a great supporter of us in our work, and it's really excited to have her there. So unfortunately, neither of them are here today. If Trudy jumps on a little bit, I'll give her a chance to say hi and introduce herself. But just a little lens of who we're working with now and who's going to be supporting you through this year and moving forward. All right, so let's talk about ePlan. So ePlan is the fun beast that we've been working on, and we continue to work on for utilization for our grants, to budget our grants, and then to get paid for them and to close out the fiscal year. And that's where we're at now. This is my trusty slide that I use in any conversation where we're talking about ePlan, and that is the grant lifecycle. These are the steps that we go through for every grant, and how it interacts within ePlan. This names the things that you need to do and the way you get what you need to get, which is those reimbursements from it. And so every ePlan application starts with the funding application, and this is where you identify with your allocation how you intend to spend your funds. And that gets reviewed by me and my team. And once we approve how you intend to spend your funds, then you have the term of the life cycle of the grant to submit your reimbursement requests. The dates on here were aligned with the previous grant we had, but the last date that we are seeking with is our closure, which is the Final Expenditure Report. At the end of the fiscal year, your schools are going to complete a FER, and this is required to account for grant spending and close out participation for that fiscal year. This is the process we're going to go into today. We're going to talk about the FER. I'm going to give you some step-by-step guidance for it, and then you guys are going to be able to kind of jump off yourselves and get started in doing those yourself. Some high-level notes regarding a final expenditure report. Like I said, the purpose is to capture how schools spend their funds throughout the year and to direct any remaining funds into the next fiscal year or for those funds to be forfeited. So those are the two things you'll be doing when you complete a FER. All schools must complete a FER for any grant that is active in that fiscal year, regardless of all funds have been expended. So some of y'all will have 2, some of you will have 3 FERs you'll have to complete. Actually, they're named here. So we have the Charter Schools Facility Grant Cohort 2022, which most schools still have for this year, not all. Charter Schools Facilities Grant Cohort 2023, which all schools will have to complete a FER for. And there's a handful of schools at the beginning of the year we're interacting with the Charter Schools grants. If that's applicable to you, I'll show you where on the screen it would name that, and then you'll have to complete one for that as well. Some other things to know about, some FER potential scenarios. You either submitted reimbursements that match your total allocation, which means you spent all your money. Then what you're going to do is you're going to capture what line items you claimed your reimbursements on, and then it will close out for that year. Or you submitted reimbursements that are less than your total allocations, you didn't spend all your money, and that means that your funds are going to be carried over into the next fiscal year, and we'll show you how to do that during this conversation. There is a case where you might forfeit your funds if you didn't spend all of your funds. We are not in a position with any schools right now that I know of that would have to do that. But again, we can engage in a conversation one-on-one if we feel like that's a situation that we're in, but we should be pretty good for this particular round of funds. So I'm about to walk into the FER walkthrough. Are there any general high-level questions that folks have about FERs, the process, what we need to do before we dive into the step-by-step in ePlan? Great. So just some notes to point out since we're working on this in ePlan. You will not be able to complete a FER unless your funding application is in ... director approved status, which almost all of our funding applications are. But if you started a revision or if you are in like a draft status, it will not work unless it is in TDOE, Charter Schools Facilities Grant Director approved, or Charter Schools Program Grant approved status. Again, 90+% of y'all's grants are in that, but just be mindful of that. You will not be able to complete a FER if there are any reimbursements requests that are incomplete. And this is the case for a lot of schools. If you have a reimbursement request that was just submitted last week or just submitted this week, it probably hasn't been paid out yet. If it hasn't been paid out yet, you won't be able to complete your FER yet. So just know that that's something that will be the case for a lot of folks for either the cohort 2022 or the cohort 2023 facilities funds. If you still have a final reimbursement request to post, you can complete that before completing your FER. So if you still have a reimbursement request for funds as late as July 30th, 2023, you can still submit that reimbursement request today. You can submit it as late as you need to, as long as you do it before the FER. Actually, let me correct that statement. You can do it after you complete your FER as well. You're always able to go back to the beginning of the grant. You're not able to go ahead. So you will need to complete a FER if your expenditures happen after July 1st. But if all of your expenditures were before June 30th, you can still submit that FER. You can still submit that reimbursement before you complete this FER. I know that was a little bit confusing. Big picture, if you still have reimbursements from last fiscal year, which ends June 30th, you can still submit those. All of your FERs should be completed by August 1st, 2023. And I did put this note here and I sent it out in my email earlier this week. Cohort 2022 FERs are currently frozen because they're not allowing funds to be carried over, and that shouldn't be the case. So they're working on getting that fixed, and hopefully it'll be fixed in the next day or so. I will send an email to the same folks I sent an email to earlier this week, just so you know what's going on there. All right, let's get started. Like I said, this is being recorded. This is something you can go ahead and play while you're doing it at the same time. I know it's more beneficial to do that. I wouldn't advise you trying to do it while I'm going through the video here, because I am going to go a little bit more quickly because you will receive these slides. Once you get into ePlan, you're going to want to log in at eplan.tn.gov. And then if you have multiple schools on the ePlan home screen, you'll want to select which of those schools you're starting with. And then you'll go to funding applications. When you do that, it's going to default to 2024, which is exciting, but you need to change it down to 2023. And on this particular example, we have two different grants that are visible for this school: Charter Schools Facility Grant Cohort 2022 and Charter Schools Grants. So this school would have 2 to complete. They actually have they should have 3 to complete, but that's what it's showing here. Our status, this one is in Grant Cohort 2022 Director Approved, which is the status that we need it to be in. And this one's in TDOE Charter Schools Grant Director Approved, which is also the status we need to be in. This page will show you all of the different grants that you need to complete a FER for. If it appears on this page under the competitive funding applications, you will have to complete a FER for them. Once you get into the application that you choose, you're going to click on FER Draft Started. And then it's going to ask you to confirm, do you want to do this? Once you jump in, you can't jump out. That's pretty much what it's telling you. But it is a time we're all completing there first, so there's no consequence to do it. This is the step we need to make. Then once you do that, on your sections page, it'll list a few different other options below. It will say like Final Expenditure Report, Final Summary Report, things that weren't there previously. And these are just components that are unique to a Final Expenditure Report or a FER. The first thing you're going to do when these options pop up is you're going to click on Final Expenditures. When you click on Final Expenditures, it is going to tell you the total amount that you've completed reimbursement requests for. So all you're doing with this page is you're gathering information. And you are going to take that number in the bottom right. In this example, it's $37,876.76. You're going to write that down. All you're doing is gathering how much money did I spend on this particular grant this fiscal year, and this is the page that's going to give you that answer. This is considered your revenue, or the amount you took in for this grant for this fiscal year. Now you're going to go click Save and go to Sections, and this will bring you back to the same landing page. All right, I've got a puppy here that wants my attention right now. And then from there, you're going to click on above Final Expenditures. You're going to click on Actual Revenue, which is going to be the button above it. And this is where you're going to tell it, how much money did I take in for this fiscal year for this grant? So you're going to steal the data you got from the other page and put it onto here. So to do that, you're going to click on Expand All at the top. And jump ahead that. You're going to click on Expand All, and it's going to bring all the different options. And you are going to put that same number we just looked at in the other federal through state section. It's going to be federal revenues, other federal through state, and you're going to type that number into there. This will be the same place you do it for all different grants, and it should be in the same section there. Once you do that, you're going to click on Save and Go To, and go back to Sections. This will bring you back to the landing page. If you have a per pupil and competitive allocation for your facilities grants, you'll have to do those exact same steps twice. Nothing about it is complicated. Final expenditures, actual revenue, same thing on the next one. Final expenditures, actual revenue. This is going to record the amount of money that you received from this grant for that fiscal year, and that's where you're going to be notating it. Once you've got this done for both, the next section that you will probably go to is not going to be applicable to all grants, depending on your status. But the next section will be carryover. If you have any money that you didn't spend this year, that you still have to spend, want to move into next year, you will carry over those funds. In the example I'm showing right here, this is a school that has both per pupil and competitive funds that they're going to need to roll over the next year. And it tells them in this section where it says amount eligible for carryover, it tells them how much they want to carry over, the maximum amount they can, and you want to carry everything over. If there is some scenario where you do not want to carry over your funds or you need to forfeit your funds, and again, I don't think there's any of us in that situation, you could leave this number where it says amount to carry over, leave it at 0, and click on acknowledge carryover less than amount eligible, and then it would come to us to process to verify that that's something that you wanted to do. Again, this isn't the situation that most of us would be in, but it is a possibility, and we can talk if you feel like you might be in that boat. So once you've identified all your money, and again, if you don't have any money to carry over, if you spent all your money, that amount eligible is going to be 0, so you're not going to put anything on this page. So you go again, Save and Go To, Sections, and then you'll click on FER Draft Completed. And just like everything within ePlan, you'll confirm it. Then your LEA fiscal rep needs to approve it. They'll confirm it. And then your LEA authorized needs to approve it. And then that will submit it to us for a finally completed FER. That is the steps. That's what you need to do. You're going to need to complete this for every grant that was active in ePlan for 2023. Once you're done, your FER will be reviewed by the TDOE finance team, and then you'll either be closed out and done for that fiscal year, or you'll need to complete a funding application for fiscal year 24. I will go over the steps for funding application, but it is the same steps that we've done for every grant. Once your FER has been approved, you'll go into fiscal year 24. You'll complete the steps to do a funding application, and you'll fill it out, and I'll approve it the same way we've done it in the past. Those are the steps. What questions do we have? Someone was about to type a question, but it looks like they paused. You need to complete if you carry over funds into the next fiscal year, then the next fiscal year you'll have to complete a new funding application so that you can get reimbursements for those funds. So it goes back to the beginning of the cycle after you carry the funds over. Constance, if you want to stay on for a minute when we finish, I can go ahead and talk you through that if that would help, or if you want to set it another time, we can make that happen. Randy, you can adjust your budget for your per pupil funds. You cannot adjust your budget for your competitive funds unless you engage in a conversation with us and we've approved your new expenditures. And again, Randy, we're just going to verify that it's all aligned with the allowability. Like I said, competitive is a different ballgame because we approved your application based off of what you said you're going to be spending it on. So that's where the changes would come in. Angela, if you're in a position where you still have 2023 per people funds that you have not rolled over, just shoot me an email. I'm not holding any funds from schools right now. And right now I haven't provided documentation and I'm not worried about it as long as when I review it, I've received correspondence that states that that's what's happening. So you are good to go. Don't worry about waiting on me. You should be good to go. We need to wait until you notify us complete carryover from 23 to 24. Once your all of your reimbursement requests have been fully approved and paid out, then you can go ahead and complete this. You don't need any notification from me. You can go ahead and make that happen. All right, if we don't have any questions here, I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording, and then Constance, if you want to stay on a second, I can go ahead and answer any questions you have. Again, this is my contact information on the screen. You've got my phone number. You've got my email address. I try to be as responsive as possible. And ePlan is my baby. So if you have questions about ePlan, hopefully I can help answer them pretty quickly. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us today. Again, I'm sending this out if you want to share with other folks that might benefit from it. But I appreciate you guys coming the day after a vacation on a pretty slow week. So.
Thank you, Adam.
No, thank you. And Constance, I will send you, I don't think you'll be able to download the presentation, but the presentation will be in the video that I sent. So you'll see the exact same steps. You can just pause the video as you go through. Recording.